Hey guys, how we doing? I'm Yalik. It's Monday. Monday, of course, being the very worst day in Boom Beach. So let's liven things up and watch some Fat Fingers hits. We had another 5 solo op. You can see a few, well, down at the bottom of this list, actually, with the very, very bottom of the screen there. Did a video about that one. That was an 1131. Go up a few ops. Oops. 1, 2, 3 from there. 1, 2, third one up from there. 1131 again. 1,000 force points. 976 a couple days ago. Yesterday we pulled in 988. These are all very good totals. So, why not watch some good Boom Beach? Start with Sven. Sven had the 298, which is complex. Complex, if it comes up, is pretty much always going to Sven, sometimes to Benny, but this is his favorite base. I don't know why, I hate it. Pretty good health on that. That's 2.1 million, I want to say. Always with this landing, the 2-smoke landing. Very, very precise there, but he's practiced it and practiced it and practiced it, and yeah, I mean, if you do it right, it's really the key to this hit. Also, flare points. This is one of them, and then there's another one up above this shock launcher. He used to use the one above the shock launcher. He seems to have switched back to this one. You see that little 4-pack of defenses there? Those will almost always be there, and then you flare to the middle spot between these two. Don't know what reason the shift is for. They do travel a little bit differently depending on what flare points you use, but maybe he just prefers the way they group coming off the beach. I don't know. Looks like just 2 shocks. You notice cleared the 9 mines up near the core, and then always tags this defense, tag that defense, because it makes the girls automatically target it. They get to this point and they stay a little bit tighter. I don't even know how you want to say that. They stay in a better group because this is damage, so needless to say, they auto-target it, and that keeps them under this smoke. Mostly. In this case, actually, they popped out a tiny, tiny bit, but not going to matter. So yeah, just 2 shocks. This doesn't range, and if done right, then this doesn't range. I think he has the GBE for 2 more, and this is after we just had a GBE tribe that expired yesterday. This was after that the tribe switched over, and the tribes right now kind of suck. So yeah, 1.8, 1.9, 2.1 million there. That's pretty beefy. I'm a 5.5, so I took quick charge because it's a shield base, and this is not a hard hit by any means. The only trick with this hit, and the thing that really screws you, is sometimes there are weird defenses over here. Like you'll get a laser, or you get rocket launchers. This is a very, very standard, easy to solo quick charge. The trouble is all those cells, and that probably looks great. I mean, it always looks great. Free GBE is fine. In this case, they're actually kind of an enemy to you. If you just let your girls do their own thing, eventually time starts to become a real problem. You will notice that I tagged that rocket launcher. Flare up to the, I think that's a 51, right next to the wall on the ground there. And we'll slow down from here. So that's tagged because I'm going to flare to this other rocket launcher, and I have the delay. That's important. I'm going to shock right in the middle of those defenses, and since I have the delay, the rocket launcher that turned didn't have time to fire. And then my girls auto-target that other rocket launcher because, again, it was damaged. Now, here, great, there's all this GBE. GBE for days, GBE to do whatever you want, but again, the problem is that it becomes a distraction for your Zookas. So the job here is to get them into position where they'll clear enough defenses that I can flare the core, which we're pretty close to doing. I mean, I have shocks all day because of the cells, but You'll notice I flared over next to the machine guns and again flared over next to the flamethrowers, and now we flared the core. I think I had like 1 minute and 45 seconds left, 1 minute and 50, something like that. And this went down with plenty of time to spare. We can speed that up. Still had a ridiculous amount of GBE in hand, and getting more with the critters back there. Just nothing to do with it. If I throw critters, they're just going to die. If they would stay alive, I'd throw critters out there because they would do extra damage, but they would die with the flamethrowers and such, and mortar here. So just get your girls to the core quickly enough that there's the health on things there. Usually lower health with shield bases. You get your girls focused on the core soon enough that they have the time to burn through the shield. So we had to go with we didn't break 1,000 force points on this operation. We didn't get to do the 262 base. That's unfortunate. Sven 298 complex, 226 quick charge. The 262 was Boomtown, and it was a ridiculous Boomtown. Cooney's note there. You're just laughing because in a 5-man, what are you supposed to do with this? Hot beach all the way around. That's bad. Extra rocket launcher down here. That's bad. Blaster here is really, really bad. When you do this hit, normally you have 2 Scorchers, 6 Boat Suzukas, and then bullet with taunt. And you'll come around this corner after clearing some cells over here, get GBE, flare back to this corner, and then as your troops are getting to that flare to this corner. That flare will run out in exactly the right amount of time for bullet and the Scorchers to end up here, and for these 2 defenses to focus on them. Your girls will come out of your last 2 smokes right here. This is usually a rocket launcher. You'll be in its blind spot, and you can kill that and then flare up to the blaster and start clearing across the top. The extra rocket launcher is really bad for that, and the blaster is awful for that because you need bullet and taunt, and the blaster is just very bad for bullet and taunt, and it's bad for the Scorchers, which you need also to keep yourself alive from the rocket fire coming this way. This is just a joke. Just not even... That would have been a problem in a 10-man, but at least it would have been doable. In a 5-man, not going to happen. So, Cooney, starting in on some of the other bases that are possible to do. We've got Excel 155, and he goes with that phone. Spectacular. It can wait though. Goes with the 1 smoke landing, which is smart, and flares right up this line of defenses to control which way his girls are going to walk. He takes an interesting, he makes some interesting choices here. He chucks a bunch of critters and goes with a couple shocks, and then just goes with that's it, critters and shocks. I think he missed though. He missed the shock on the machine gun first time, but because he had the critters in the way. Now you've got this rocket firing on you. I believe these guys, no, these guys are fine. But rather than just going with so many shocks and shocking everything, chucked out the critters and let them take the damage while his girls blew up the core. Not a very high health core, so that's probably factored into his decision. Giovani is the 190 base. Maverick always does Giovani's. I think I've said this, like, pretty much every time I've made one of these videos. Check this out. First, the health on that. So that's a million, 1.2 million, and a tiny bit of change. We'll get back to that over here in a second, but CMOs are in the weapon lab this week, so he's got a CMO up by the core. That'll factor in later. Speed this up, getting up the extra GBE, which is very often available down here. Don't know that he absolutely needed it, but if it's there, why not? I'm going to slow this down and show the walk when we get just about to the up flare here, because if you watch these flare points, they never ever change. And if you use these flare points, now see, I'll flare somewhere up in here to gather my troops up, and then I split these defenses. Mav uses different flare points, so middle of that machine gun, like right in front of the circle on that machine gun, a little circle on the side, white circle, bullseye kind of thing, and then directly in front of this defense. He's going to wrap around, excuse me, these boom cannons, and so what this does is it keeps from having to clear so many mines. So it is a very good path. And then from here, this never changes either, right to that corner. And what happens is your girls funnel through those two defenses, which are almost always there. Not necessarily always machine guns, but almost always there. And then they stay in this nice tight little grouping as they walk up this aisle. I don't know if you want to call that. Looks like 3 shocks up here. Could have gone with 2. That critter is for the CMO there, to make sure that his hero doesn't get killed, because the hero is going to get there first usually, and the CMO will focus on the hero, and then that's a problem because you don't have brick. So he goes with, you could do this with 2 shocks. This is right here, this pack of stuff is we call it the pimp shock. So you can do the pimp shock, and then he could have done one over here. I don't know that he needed to get this blaster, but he made sure to get this blaster. So he does go with the pimp shock right here. And that shock is really hard. But then he uses 2 shocks on these rocket launchers because he, I guess, was just abundance of caution there. But yeah, CMO, interesting little addition to that base. I had one last night on a Phobos, and it's not as bad as having the microwavers around, but it's still not great. And since the tribes, as I said, the tribes we have right now are not that good, nothing that gives you extra GBE, having to use an extra critter on operation hits is now going to be a pain in the you-know-what. So finally, and the last base that's left, since we couldn't do Boomtown, it's a waste of hits. We don't have enough hits to do it. So we have the 119 base, but this base, even though it's the lowest level base on the op, in terms of the force points, was disgusting. So Benny ended up using a very different approach on this. If you use the standard approach, you're hitting from down here. 6 o'clock is the base of the core that is facing the beach, closest to the beach. So usually you would hit this from 6 o'clock or from 5 o'clock or sometimes from 7 o'clock. But all of those in this case are going to result in a stupid number of shocks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If you're over here, if you come over here, you're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's too many. You can't do that. So he had to get creative on this hit, and he did get creative, and it worked out very, very nicely. Low health, again, since as the base force point levels drop, the health on these statues also gets lower as well. So that is helpful, because he's not going to be able to use brick here. He's going to need bullet to take care of some of these rocket launchers and save himself several shocks that way. I actually had not even scouted this base until Mav mentioned it a few minutes ago, and I'm glad I got a look at this, because this is a really interesting approach to orb. Getting himself all lined up. When I do this stuff, it never works out so well for me. Flares back to where he wants his girls. You're going to see 2 smokes come out pretty quickly here. Shocks bullet down low. Got a couple of girls there, but it doesn't really matter. Level 20 mine, so he's good there. And then flare the core. So bullet being down there is now taking fire from 1, 2 sets of shocks, 3, 4 maybe, different things, and then he uses, 3 shocks behind himself, 4 shocks total to get himself into this position, and Bullet is doing exactly what he needs to do while the Zookas very, very calmly annihilate that core. One of the machine guns over here saw a couple of the Zookas. That's it. So, and if you get that many Zookas close to anything and firing, it's gonna do a bunch of damage. So, altogether, yet again, a very good op, and that even despite of the fact that this Boomtown absolutely sucked. Even with, we also just lost remote hack. We had that over the weekend. That also went away before this op started. We started at about 7:30 Eastern time last night, and that stuff all went away at 7 Eastern time, even with the remote hack. Not doable. So, what did I say, 988 force points? That is, I'd take that any day of the week anyway. You can do a little bit better sometimes, but in these circumstances, that is absolutely fantastic. So, once again, just kind of living here and getting to know these guys around us, because it's tough to rise. I gotta say that with this. I mean, this is where the real competition is, I guess. And yeah, there are some really good teams around us. These Badgers teams, there's a couple of friends of mine on those. And yeah, I mean, they're really, really good players. So, averaging over 900 force points for an operation, not easy to do, but that's what the guys at the top are doing. I will take 988 anyway, and yeah, hopefully I've got a couple more of these to do over the next several days, because that means we're doing well. Anyway, like, thumbs up, you know how all that stuff goes, and I'll catch you guys later. Take care.